preparing for a SQL DBA interview. You've reached Interview Guide, and this video is for you. We'll walk through 15 key questions you're likely to face. For each question, you'll see a sample answer followed by the key points to cover. Subscribe, like, and share, and drop a topic request in the comments. Question 1. What is the difference between clustered and non-clustered indexes? A clustered index defines the physical order of table rows, so a table can have only one. A non-clustered index is a separate structure containing key values plus row locators back to the data. For example, I would cluster on a stable, narrow, increasing key and add non-clustered indexes for frequent predicates or joins. Too many indexes slow writes and increase maintenance, so I validate usage with execution plans and index DMVs. While answering, focus on physical row storage, lookup behavior, uniqueness, key choice, write overhead, maintenance cost, and how clustered and non-clustered indexes affect execution plans. Question 2. Explain the different types of SQL Server backups and how you would restore a database. The goal is not backup creation, it is predictable recovery. Full backups establish the base, differential backups capture changes since the last full, and log backups provide point-in-time recovery for full or bulk log recovery models. I test restores regularly, document RPO and RTO, and keep copies off-site or immutable. In a failure, I restore full, latest differential, then log backups in sequence up to the target time. Make sure to cover full, differential, and transaction log backups, restore order, recovery objectives, point-in-time recovery, backup verification, retention, off-site copies, and why restore testing matters. Question 3. How would you troubleshoot a slow-running query in production? When a query is slow, I first confirm whether it is consistently slow or blocked by current load. Then I inspect the actual execution plan, waits, logical reads, parameter values, and missing or unused indexes. I look for scans, bad estimates, implicit conversions, spills, and key lookups. Fixes may include rewriting predicates, updating statistics, adding a targeted index, or addressing blocking. I measure before and after, because DBA tuning without evidence is guesswork. In your answer, talk about reading actual execution plans, wait statistics, blocking, index usage, statistics quality, parameter sniffing, logical reads, and proving improvements with before and after measurements. Question 4. What is the difference between blocking and deadlocking, and how do you handle each? Blocking is normal concurrency control. One session waits because another holds an incompatible lock. A deadlock is a cycle where sessions wait on each other, so SQL Server chooses a victim and rolls it back. I diagnose blocking with wait stats, SP who is active, DMVs, and deadlock graphs. Mitigation includes shorter transactions, proper indexes, consistent object access order, appropriate isolation levels, and retry logic for deadlock victims. Be sure to mention transaction isolation, lock compatibility, blocking versus deadlocks, deadlock graphs, victim selection, long transactions, indexing impact, and application retry patterns in production systems. Question 5. What are SQL Server recovery models, and how do they affect backups? Recovery model controls how SQL Server logs transactions and what restore options are available. Simple truncates log automatically, but cannot do point-in-time recovery. Full preserves log records until log backup, supporting point-in-time restores. Bulk logged reduces logging for some bulk operations, but can limit point-in-time recovery. In production OLTP, I usually use full with frequent log backups, monitor log growth, and test the restore chain regularly. While answering, cover simple, full, and bulk logged recovery models, transaction log behavior, log backup requirements, point-in-time restore capability, and how recovery model choice affects RPO. Question 6. What causes tempdb contention, and how would you troubleshoot it? Tempdb is shared workspace for sorts, hashes, row versions, temporary tables, and internal operations. If it is stressed, the whole instance suffers. I check file sizes, auto-growth, weights like page-latch, version store usage, spills, and long-running transactions. Best practices include multiple equally sized data files, fast storage, sensible autogrowth, and avoiding unnecessary temp objects. Query tuning often reduces tempdb pressure more than adding hardware alone. Make sure to cover temp tables, sort and hash spills, version store, pig latch weights, file configuration, autogrowth, storage performance, and workload patterns that create tempdb pressure. Question 7. How do you monitor and manage SQL Server Agent jobs? I treat SQL Agent jobs like production code. Each job should have clear ownership, schedules aligned with business load, retry rules, notifications, and logging. For failures, I check job history, output files, SQL error logs, permissions, and whether blocking or maintenance windows caused it. I prefer alerts for severity errors, failed backups, long-running jobs, and disk space. A DBA should know failures before users or auditors do. In your answer, talk about SQL Server Agent jobs, alerting, ownership, output logging, retries, notifications, permissions, history review, and proactive monitoring for failed maintenance tasks. Question 8. Why are statistics important in SQL Server query performance? Statistics describe data distribution, and the optimizer uses them to estimate row counts. Bad estimates lead to wrong join choices, memory grants, scans, or spills. I check stale statistics, skewed columns, ascending keys, and parameter-sensitive queries. Auto-update helps, but large tables may need scheduled updates with sampling decisions. I do not blindly update everything daily. I target volatile objects and validate improvement through plans and runtime metrics. Be sure to mention optimizer estimates, histogram data, auto-update statistics, stale or skewed data, sampling, plan quality, query regressions, and when manual statistics maintenance is useful. Question 9. How would you compare always-on availability groups, failover clustering, and log shipping? High availability keeps the service running. Disaster recovery restores service after a major failure. In SQL Server, always-on availability groups provide database-level replicas with failover and readable secondaries. Failover clustering protects the instance using shared or clustered storage. Log shipping is simpler and useful for DR, but failover is more manual. I choose based on RPO, RTO, budget, licensing, network latency, and operational skill. While answering, distinguish high availability from disaster recovery, and cover always-on availability groups, failover clustering, log shipping, RPO, RTO, licensing, failover automation, and testing. Question 10. What are your best practices for securing a SQL Server environment? Security starts with least privilege. I avoid shared sysadmin accounts, use Windows or centralized authentication where possible, assign permissions through roles, and separate duties for developers, DBAs, and service accounts. For sensitive data, I consider encryption at rest, TLS in transit, auditing, masking, and row-level security if needed. I also review orphaned users, failed logins, privileged role membership, and backup protection, because backups contain the data too. Make sure to cover least privilege, role-based permissions, authentication choices, sysadmin control, encryption, auditing, backup security, service accounts, and periodic access reviews for compliance readiness. Question 11. A transaction log file is growing rapidly. How would you investigate and fix it? A growing transaction log usually means log truncation is blocked or workload volume changed. I check the recovery model, last log backup, log reuse wait disk, active transactions, replication, availability group synchronization, and large index or bulk operations. I do not shrink as a first response. I fix the cause, take log backups if appropriate, size the log correctly, and shrink only after a one-time abnormal event incident. In your answer, discuss log truncation, recovery model, missing log backups, active transactions, replication or availability group delays, VLFs, autogrowth, and why shrinking is rarely the fix. Question 12. What is DBCC CHECKDB, and what would you do if it reports corruption? DBCC CHECKDB verifies logical and physical consistency of a database. If it reports corruption, I first preserve evidence, check storage and SQL error logs, and avoid panic repairs. The safest recovery is restoring clean backups and applying logs. Repair allow data loss is a last resort because it can delete data to restore consistency. I run CHECKDB regularly, often offloaded to restored copies for large systems when possible. Be sure to mention DBCC CHECKDB purpose, corruption detection, backup restore preference, repair risks, storage investigation, consistency check scheduling, and validating backups through restored copies. Question 13. What is parameter sniffing, and how can it cause performance issues? Parameter sniffing happens when SQL Server compiles a plan using one parameter value, then reuses it for very different values. That is good when data distribution is stable, but painful with skew. I confirm it by comparing estimated versus actual rows and testing different parameters. Fixes include better indexes, updated statistics, option recompile, optimize for, dynamic SQL, or query store plan forcing. While answering, focus on plan caching, parameter value distribution, cardinality estimates, skewed data, symptoms and execution plans, and mitigation options like recompile or query store. Question 14. How would you design a database maintenance plan for a busy production server? A good maintenance strategy is workload aware, not a checkbox exercise. I schedule backups, CHECKDB, index maintenance, statistics updates, cleanup, and monitoring during windows that match business tolerance. Index rebuilds are not always required. Reorganize or skip based on fragmentation, page count, and addition features. I also verify job duration and impact. The most important maintenance task is still restore testing, because backups must be usable. Make sure to cover backups, integrity checks, index and statistics maintenance, fragmentation thresholds, scheduling windows, job monitoring, cleanup tasks, and avoiding unnecessary rebuilds on large tables. Question 15. How would you plan and execute a SQL Server database migration or upgrade? For a database migration, I start with discovery, size, compatibility level, features, jobs, linked servers, logins, SSIS, and downtime tolerance. Then I choose backup restore, log shipping, replication, or availability groups based on cutover needs. I run test migrations, compare row counts, validate performance, script security, and prepare rollback. The cutover plan should include freeze time, validation checks, owner sign-off, and communication to avoid surprises later. In your answer, talk about discovery, compatibility level, logins, jobs, linked servers, migration method, downtime window, validation, rollback plan, performance testing, and stakeholder communication strategy. If you are still with us, congratulations. You are much ahead of the rest and serious about preparing for your interview. We hope we were able to add value to your preparation and create some helpful content. Do not forget to like and share this video. Your small act can do great things for us.